I like the work of Kevin Kelly. He's a futurist and an author. For example, he wrote the book The Inevitable. And let me take you back to 2017. There was a big event in Eindhoven, the city of Netherlands. And there was Kevin Kelly to go give a keynote presentation. And I was sitting at the fourth row, and it's 10 minutes before the event starts. Kevin Kelly walks up and he's going to sit in the front row. And there was nobody sitting next to him. And I was sitting there and I was thinking, wow, this is my opportunity to have a little chat with Mr. Kelly, maybe get an autograph or maybe a picture together. So what happens next and what this has to do with knowledge management and learning, you will find out later. Because for this video, I first want to share a book I recently read by Mr. Kelly. It's called Excellent Advice for Living. And I think it's really a cool book. And there was one quote I want to highlight. And the quote is, "That thing that made you weird as a kid could make you great as an adult if you don't lose it." And that really struck with me and it really made me think, well, what was it that made me weird as a kid? And I think compared to other children, when I was a little boy, I was a sort of a researcher, sort of consultant. So my brother came up with questions. I don't know, questions you have when you're 6 years old, like why is the grass green and the sky blue, and these kinds of questions. And then I took on that assignment and I went to the library to find out the answers to these questions. And I think in a sense that's still what I'm doing in my work as a futurist, as a keynote speaker, as an innovation scientist. So I don't know. I really like the quote and really also make you think for yourself, what was the thing that made you weird as a kid? Before I forget, comment, like and subscribe. If you have a remark or a question, let me know. Give me a thumbs up for this video if you like it. And do not forget to subscribe to my channel. One element of personal knowledge management is the use of tools for your notes. So my question for you is, what tool do you use for making notes? Is it Evernote, Apple Notes, Roam Research, Obsidian, Notion? Let me know in the comments. My name is Joosten. I'm a futurist, I'm a keynote speaker, and I'm an innovation researcher. And my main topic of expertise is how to become future-proof. So what are developments that are heading our way, and what can you do yourself or within your team or your organizations to be better prepared and thrive in the future? So what are the best practices for knowledge management? And how can you stimulate learning in organizations? And how does personal knowledge management fit in? Well, after this video, you know what successful knowledge management entails. You will learn how to improve the learning capabilities of your organization and how to use it in an excellent way with the use of personal knowledge management. And to start with personal knowledge management, what is it? Well, to give you a quote, personal knowledge management, also known as PKM, is a process of collecting information that a person uses to gather, classify, store, search, retrieve, and share knowledge. So it kind of looks like general knowledge management, which is also used in organizations, but personal knowledge management really focuses on the individual. How do you use information? How do you gather? How do you share? Do you search? These kinds of things. So later in this video, I will sometimes use the word PKM. And now you know that's like an acronym for personal knowledge management. And a couple of months ago, I was at the first PKM Summit organized in the city of Utrecht in the Netherlands. And I met a lot of amazing people over there. And I also saw some amazing lectures and also workshops. And I also had the honor to give a workshop myself. And the workshop, also a keynote presentation, was about personal knowledge management and learning organizations. And I first started my keynote presentation with a question like, what's the state of the world?
The main topic is the future. I'm a futures researcher. And there are some really interesting acronyms. FUCA, BANI, RUPT, TUNA. And they're all about the current state of affairs in the world and in economy. I especially like tuna. So what are these? VUCA, that's what pretty well known. Volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous, banny, brittle, anxious, nonlinear, incomprehensible, rapid, unpredictable, paradoxical, and tangled. And the tuna, turbulent, uncertain, novel, and also ambiguous. So if you're also in your private life, but also in your entrepreneurial life or corporate life, you're dealing with developments that are going pretty fast, and how can you make sense of that?
Okay, so if the state of the world is VUCA, Bani, tuna, why then is learning and knowledge management so important for you and your organization? And for that, I reference one of my favorite scholars and authors.
Think again, Adam Grant. I see some fans, other Adam Grant fans, I also find it a really fascinating book, also concerning the future and learning organizations. But there was one quote I saw: organizations with a learning culture innovate faster and make fewer mistakes. So I think that again really highlight the idea that we, in our organizations, need a learning culture. So we can be better prepared for that future world or the tuna world, but also innovate faster and make fewer mistakes.
All right. So now you are aware that knowledge management can help to become better prepared for the future, to help you with your innovation processes, with your strategy. But how? What are some ideas and best practices about knowledge management and learning organizations? And for that, we are going to look at some papers and some articles. And the first paper is about the 5 stages in knowledge management, or 5 levels, as you can say. And you start with the startup phase, then the take-up phase, then the expansion phase, the progressive phase, and the sustainability phase. And it's all about becoming more mature in your organization about the use of knowledge and knowledge management. And I read this paper, and now I'm going to share 3 insights from that paper.
Yeah, for one, they say you need a more flexible structure. So you need flexibility in your structures and not a rigid structure. You also need committed leadership, so that also the leadership is also committed to becoming a learning organization. And the third one, I think that really suits PKM, that you also have a good technological network for knowledge, for ideas to seem flawlessly, to flow through the organization.
Another interesting article is by the Harvard Business Review, Why Organizations Don't Learn. Well, I love the title, it's just the title, I think, wow, that's cool. And now I'm going to share 3 ideas from this article.
To give you an idea, it's about embracing mistakes, so I think that's a pretty obvious one. But also make decisions more data-driven. I think that's also one you can also adhere to. And the third one is also balance between action and reflection. So you as PKMers, you are probably also aware of that. You need to do things, but also take time for reflection in that.
I studied business administration. And in the field of business administration, there are great management thinkers like Peter Drucker, Henry Mintzberg, Barbara Kellerman, John Kotter. But when you talk about knowledge management, there's only one guru, namely Peter Senge. And he wrote the book, The Fifth Discipline. And it's a pretty big book, and it's also a bit dated, but still I think it really has some valuable ideas about knowledge management in organization.
It comes with 5 disciplines. It's in a learning organization. It's personal mastery, shared vision, systems thinking, mental models, and also team learning. These are the different elements in the model. So encourage dialogue and collaboration to create a shared vision. System thinking to address complex challenges effectively. Challenge mental models, fostering new ideas and perspectives. Team learning and open dialogue and personal mastery to enhance capabilities and focus energies. So yeah, these are all also ideas for that organizations can do to become a better learning organization.
So practice what you preach. You know, I gave a keynote presentation at the summit, but in the room there are a lot of professionals that are way better in personal knowledge management and learning organization than I am. So I also want to use that knowledge, and also the people in the room can also share their own knowledge and their own experiences and their own tips and best practices. So what I did, I assigned groups and I asked the groups to work on 2 questions. The first question is, what are challenges for organizations to improve their learning capabilities? And the second question then is, how can personal knowledge management, PKM, help with that? So the groups are working, and I was curious, what are some ideas and insights from the workshop? And as of course, especially how can personal knowledge management help with learning organizations and knowledge management within an organization?
I have a bit of a cold, so that's why I'm sounding a little bit nasal, maybe sexy, that's at least what I heard. But I'm in Utrecht and I gave a talk, a workshop at the first PKM Summit. And my workshop was about the learning organizations. Is PKM the missing link? So how can PKM help with a learning culture within your organization? And the groups, they were working on 2 assignments, 2 questions. What are challenges for organizations to improve their learning capabilities? And the second one, how can PKM help? And for the second one was some interesting insights and ideas and suggestions I heard. First one is look at your organization as a collection of PKMers. So make personal knowledge management, PKM, a team within the organization and cultivate that people exchange their own ideas, their own procedures, their own methods for PKM, and then it can spread out. And the second insight is that it also can help with reflection. So a part of personal knowledge management is that you take notes, read things, connect things, but also reflection. Like is it essential? What is the essence of my note? How does it relate to other things? How can it help me in my work, in my profession, in my personal life? And so if you have that sense of reflection and you can introduce it in the organization to a higher degree than it's already the case, then in that way PKM can also help the learning organization. And the third practical idea, which you can also see over there, is to host open sessions. So have regular weekly, monthly sessions where people can share their own ideas, maybe also share their own Obsidian, Notion, Evernote, or their own collection of ideas, of notes. And in that way, you can also embrace a learning culture and that people share their own ideas, share their knowledge. And in that way, you can also foster learning in the organization.
So I hope you gained some insights about personal knowledge management and learning organizations. And now I promised you to get back to my story. It was 2017, there was a big event in Eindhoven and Kevin Kelly was in the front row, nobody's sitting next to him, and there's 10 minutes to go. And I was wondering, would he be irritated? Like he's now really in a focus mode, he's trying to get into the zone before he gets on stage? But on the other hand, this is my opportunity to get to him. So I took a deep breath and then I went up to Mr. Kelly. I said, sorry to interrupt you, but I'm a fan of your work. And I thought, what will happen next? And he was really, really nice. He asked, well, what's your name? What you're doing here? And I also took my book with me. And he also wrote an autograph to Peter with respect. I wish you great success. Onwards to an amazing future. Best, Kevin Kelly. And I also had a selfie with Mr. Kelly. And what's funny about this story is that I was the first one to go up with him. And when other people, they probably had like the same discussion inside their head. And when other people saw that Mr. Kelly was open to these kinds of interactions with the audience, there was a line forming with other people who want to get an autograph or a picture with Mr. Kelly. And concerning the topic of this video, I think there's a lot of knowledge in books So if we're talking about knowledge management, it's about knowing, like making notes and retrieving them in these kinds of books. But I think it's also a metaphor that learning is not only about reading books or watching videos. Sometimes it also has a bodily function. And at the moment, for me, it was courage, the courage to step up to Mr. Kelly. And that also gave me a great learning opportunity. Like sometimes you have to dare to try, and then you have like an amazing experience, and also I think a really remarkable anecdote for me to share with you today. So if you remember, my question to you is, what do you use for note-taking? Evernote, Notion, Obsidian, Apple Notes, or maybe just a plain old little book and taking notes with your pencil. For me, let me know the answer. I actually use a mix. So I mainly use Obsidian, but I also use Apple Notes. I used to have also Evernote. But let me know what you use. So thanks for watching. And I'd like to thank Daan van Bergen of Videologic and the organization of the PKM Summit for the footage. And if you want to hire me for a keynote presentation, like you just saw, or a consultancy or a webinar, just send me a message. Comment, like, and subscribe. If you have a remark or question, let me know. Give me a thumbs up. And do not forget to subscribe to my channel. So these are all the notes I have from the book, The Inevitable. That's cool. It's about trends like becoming, cognifying, flowing. Nice to read it. This is also a form of personal knowledge management, I think. It's old school on paper.